Day 8. I'm still a little sleepy from the meditation. It was interesting today. Very, very quickly, very soon after I started meditating, I just dropped into a place of so much relaxation that it was crazy. I was like, okay, we're going there, I guess. It was like it's something, my soul just sucked me in and brought me in and was like, come here, we've been waiting for you. It was so interesting. It was like a very quick drop. Going in, relaxing. It was interesting. It was very interesting. And I was thinking about something that I said yesterday when I was talking about I have somewhat of what's the word that I used? And I used quotes too. Addictive personality. First of all, I wanted to explain that it's not that I'm not addicted to any drugs. I'm not addicted to anything. What I wanted to say, first of all, I was kind of making fun of how we tend to label ourselves so much. I feel like we tend to label ourselves a little too much sometimes. So I was just kind of trying to make a joke. And what I meant was that I've never ever had any addiction towards any drug, alcohol, anything like that. But I meant that my personality sometimes is it's very strong. In relationships, I've been very, I don't know, sometimes it's going from that very passionate place, even when it comes to my career, the things that I'm passionate about, or relationships and women and all that stuff. Like, there's so much passion that sometimes it feels like that shifts towards a slightly like addictive, I don't even know how to explain it, personality. But what that got me thinking is that I think it was either yesterday or the day before that I shared with you I've always been very judgmental with myself. Like, everything that I did, everything that I said, or everything that I didn't say, like everything was wrong. Everything, I felt like I've always messing up, always could have done things better, always there was something wrong. And it was funny that when I share that about my addictive personality, I thought, okay, it's interesting that even though I don't see it that way as much anymore, and I have a much more compassionate point of view towards myself and others, it's still that word addictive personality doesn't feel good. And to me, sometimes those things can show me where I still hold judgment towards myself, where I still maybe hold judgment towards other people. And I think it's very, very, very interesting, because I also think there's a balance between appreciating everything about ourselves, loving the shit out of ourselves, and really, really, really accepting, appreciating, welcoming every aspect of ourselves. And at the same time, balancing that out with realizing the things that maybe we need to face within ourselves. When I felt that I was very, very needy in relationships, that was something that I needed to face. It's not something to hate and do everything we can to push out and get rid of it. Or I feel like there's a different approach that we can take, a more welcoming, accepting, loving, compassionate approach towards healing and integrating that into our being and making it a part of ourselves in a more that can function in a more in a healthier way. But I see this a lot sometimes in the spiritual journey, that we tend to go from one extreme to the other, sometimes maybe ignoring one or the other, but I don't know, it's a fascinating thing, because the other thing I was thinking about judgment is that I feel like as human beings, most of us can be very judgmental with ourselves. And there's the people that are really judgmental with themselves, with ourselves. And then there's those of us that deny that we're judgmental with ourselves. I think as human beings, we all go through that. And it's funny how first we judge ourselves with many different things. Like, you can add any adjective that you can think of. I'm too fat, I'm too thin, I'm too tall, I'm too short, I'm too dark, I'm too light, I'm too whatever. I'm too lazy, I'm too obsessive, I'm too... so many little adjectives that you can throw in there. And I feel like then we get into a self-development journey, right? And then a spiritual journey. And then it kind of becomes the same thing. I started judging my journey as I started comparing myself to all my friends, right? He's way more intuitive than I am, right? She's so much wiser than I am. He has so many more gifts than I have. He's a much better, whatever, healer, whatever word you want to use. And it's still the same thing. It's still judgment. It's still comparing ourselves to other people. So I want to share with you like a cool little exercise that we can do, but also the idea that I think meditation, first of all, will bring those things up to the surface if we're not already aware of it. Some of us are already aware of that, and it's hard because we when you are aware of it all the time, then you're judging yourself all the time, and you have to shift to a more compassionate approach. But when we're not aware of it, first of all, we'll bring it up to the surface. Then you might hate that for a little while, but then that's how eventually you can heal that. You can approach it with a different point of view. And what I wanted to invite you today to do is, if you grab a piece of paper and you write the top like 2 to 5, maybe if there's one that is really strong, maybe just stick with that one, but the top 2 to 5 judgments that you have about yourself. Like I said, I'm too this, I'm too that, I'm not fill in the blank enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not successful enough, I'm not whatever enough. And write out the top 2 to 5 and just like stare at that sheet. Meditate just staring at that sheet. And different things could happen. You could either go into a place of so much pain because that judgment that you just wrote out is really hard for you. But if you sit with it, sit through that pain, I can almost guarantee you'll come back out in a little circle and heal that. If not, then you might be able to find some support, but eventually we're going to have to face those things. And that's the beauty of meditation and just sitting and being with yourself. And the other thing that can happen is that you'll stare at this sheet long enough that you realize, like, that's bullshit. Like, that's not even true. You can Byron Katie the shit out of that shit. If you look up the 4 questions from Byron Katie, which I don't think we need all 4. I think some of those are fillers. I'm sorry. I have huge respect and admiration for her work, but I don't think we need all those 4 questions. But if you ask, like, is that really true? Is it really, really, absolutely true that I'm not pretty enough or good enough, or I'm not ready, I don't have what it takes, that I'm not a good person? Is that really, really true? So every judgment you hold against yourself, face that. Look at it. Look at it from all kinds of different angles. Stare at it long enough in the morning, come back to it in the afternoon, and then come back to it at night, and see how your point of view shifts throughout the day, because you'll eventually come out of that bullshit, a bullshit judgment that you maybe hold against yourself, that sometimes it's okay, we need to go through that. I'm going to talk about this in another video, but I needed to first hate myself, and I'm talking about hate myself, to now be able to love myself the way I do. So sometimes we need to go through those. But I highly, highly invite you to take 10 minutes out of your day and do this, and see how that will transform your relationship with your judgments against yourself. I had some cool quotes for today, but that's what wanted to come through, so I'll save the quotes for tomorrow. Hope that helps. If it helped in any way, let me know. And I'll see you tomorrow. Let me know how your day 8 was. Hope you're doing amazing. Much love.